Good morning to everyone that has just logged in. Welcome to the October AREP members meeting. It looks to me that the logins have slowed down. We might be reaching the number that we're going to be today. So I think we're going to get going. I see Jock has arrived. Jock is the chairman of the board of AREP. So I just want to say welcome, Jock. And I see most of our speakers for today has arrived as well. So let's get going. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the agenda, and then I'm going to hand over to our first speaker. Basically, today we are going to give an opportunity for 4 of AREP's founding members to share information about the industry, information about changes on their side, information about their products, things that we think is prudent for everyone, all of the AREP members to know. And so we've invited our founding members. Founding members of AREP are companies that have committed to, first of all, financially contribute to the association, but also secondly, to give their time in various ways. Mostly on a voluntary basis. We depend on these guys to give their input, to give their insights, to give a little bit of expertise, specifically on our steering committees, different projects that we're attempting as an association to move forward in the industry, ultimately to benefit the industry as a whole. And these companies have committed to be part of the solution. And for that, we're very thankful, and we're very proud to be associated with them. And it's always nice to give them an opportunity to just speak to us about what's happening on their side. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Energy Gurus. That is the first company that's going to be talking to us. Alexis, over to you.
There we go. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. We have, I think it's the 3rd time round that we've tried to find time to introduce ourselves. I will make this quite quick because I think many of the industry knows us from the previous years and in the lighting industry. I was the founding managing director of a company called Den Africa, which, as you know, does surge and lightning protection. And through that, we really got into the Bureau of Standards in trying to make our norms and our guidelines better for all. And through the lighting industry, we also tried to build an association that upskills and teaches and even gets to a point where one could certify lightning protection systems. And through that, although it didn't go that well, it's been a great learning curve for us in terms of knowing what it takes for an association to do well. And when we then had the energy crisis, we then decided to find an energy company. And we are really excited to have been part of AREP since the beginning. Those days, still in our company, we had Carl very much involved, and everything I today know, I can attest to his training and his knowledge. But I would like to introduce our company in a few words. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share the screen. Let's see it. I am.
You are more than welcome.
Thank you. Let me know when you see it. Can you see the screen?
I cannot, but maybe some of the other members can let me know.
Not yet. Yeah, we can see.
You can. Cool. So since we started the company, and very importantly, we called ourselves the Energy Gurus for a very specific reason, and not pick ourselves into some of the solar basket, right? So as a company, we have electrical engineers, registered electricians. We have a good program in terms of training electricians through our projects, and we find ourselves in an interesting position where many companies can do solar, or they could do batteries, but very few really are an energy expert. And as you know, the other word for an expert is guru. We've done pretty cool projects from power factor corrections, harmonic filtering, generator sets, UPSs, solar battery, all of it together, even lighting projects in terms of LEDs. And a little snapshot is testament to how well it's gone with us. We have to date installed more than 20 megawatts of solar systems. We've installed more than 15 megawatt hours of commercial battery systems. If we had to count the residential, that probably shoot us up into the 20s as well. We have had 50 large-scale projects completed to date, and probably the proudest factor of all these stats is that we've created 70, today it's actually 87 jobs through our company, really doing well. We have had the privilege of working with the likes of Siemens Energy. We have worked with Hollard, a clientele, really names that are strong, Airbus, and it's testament to, let's just mute that guy. It's testament to really taking care of doing things properly. We have a strong ethos of doing it right. And I want to use the word right because the word right today in our industry is very vague, and something I would like to continue is to support our association at the bureau level to really get proper standards in place to work on getting to a point where we have an electrician certified in terms of the solar industry, maybe even separated a battery guy, and knowing the Bureau very well, having spent more than a decade of my life at the Bureau of Standards, chairing multiple committees, this is where I stick my hand up and say, we would love to share and help as far as we can at the Bureau side to get a standard for the solar industry as a whole. Thank you. Any questions from anyone?
Alexis, I wonder.
Alex.
Sorry, you're welcome, Mark. Is that you?
Yes, it's me. Sorry, could I just have Alex's contact details, please? Or will it be shared afterwards?
Alex, I think if you're cool with that, just post it in the meeting chat, or you can send it directly to Mark.
Great idea.
Okay.
Thanks, Alex.
And then keep all of the questions for the end. Let's do the talks, and then if all the speakers can stay until the end, that would be wonderful, because we want to do a nice lengthy Q&A at the end.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's great.
I have one more, call it a wish. I would love to see not a program, but almost a committee where people that have had interesting projects, things that we've been struggling with, where we could share lessons learned from projects. I think so often EPCs are almost set up to feel like they're competing with the other, but there's so much we could learn from one another where, what have you done in off-grid systems with issues of motor starting? How have you set settings on a test unit to blah, blah. I do believe a platform where we could share knowledge and really where things went wrong would be so good for all of us, instead of every single one going through those lessons learned on their own. I'm willing to share from our side, and I'd love to see others do the same. Thank you.
That's a wonderful idea. I think, Alexis, we will definitely engage with you on how to practically roll that out. It's a good idea. Okay, so the next company that is a founding member of AREP is Rubicon, and if I'm not mistaken, Nick is going to be talking to us. Nick?
Morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Morning, guys. My name is Nick. I am the CPO at Rubicon, so that makes me responsible for product-related stuff. And I'm just going to share something with you about our in-house brand called Apex, and one of the products that we're focusing on at the moment. About 3 years ago, Rubicon bought the old MLT inverter company, and we've used that as sort of a springboard into building a whole bunch of products. And I just want to share this one with you. So can you just confirm that you can see my screen with the Apex logo on it?
We can, yes.
Awesome. Okay. I'm not going to PowerPoint you to death. I just want to share a couple of things. So who's Apex? So in-house and local tech, that's what it's all about, right? On the ground support, all that kind of stuff. We make a whole bunch of products. And this, of course, applies to all of them. I'm going to highlight what we call our SGS geyser controller, which we've been working on for quite a few years, and is now rocking and rolling, adding value to the local market. So this is what it looks like. You might have seen it around at some trade shows and things like that. Its function in the end of the day is to make hot water from PV, and that was the original idea behind it. But it's sort of taken on a life of its own as we've internationalized it and done a whole bunch of things. The feature stack has sort of grown, so it became a 20% hardware and 80% software product. In the end, it's really all about the software and the IP that sits behind that. So all the standard stuff you would expect. SANS 10400, you'll know the building industry needs to comply with that with all new buildings. 50% of the energy for hot water must come from something other than Eskom. It's not exactly the way it's worded, but that's what it boils down to. So it's a solution to that. So designed for resi primarily, yeah, of course, has various advantages over the sort of the thermal stuff, you know, no moving parts, longer warranties, those kind of things. So key quick things, lots of certification. That was the most difficult part of the project, was to get all of our certification in place. And we were the first one to have City of Cape Town approval. As far as I know, the only one at the moment. There might be others on their way, but certainly that was a very tough challenge to get done. But it stood us in good stead because all of that certification has now made the roadmap into the UK and Australia, where we've just launched, much easier. Just one or two other things on and off grid. So load shedding, no load shedding, grid, no grid, we don't care. And we also, when we say on and off grid, we also mean that in the internet sense. You don't need a network connection or an internet connection if you want to use it. It has a local user interface, which means you can carry on. Some basic specs, I'm not going to go through them in detail, but what you would expect. Converts 1.5 kilowatts of PV, and it will support up to 20 amps on the AC circuit. So it's a bit more than 4 kilowatts on the element side. That's been updated from the spec that's in front of you now. We are just about to release a firmware update to take us to 2 kilowatts on the DC side. We're getting more and more requests for that. We don't mind the over paneling or anything like that. That's just where the software caps the output. Wi-Fi is of course standard. That's what it looks like. Installed, goes in series with your AC supply, and then you of course have PV on the left there and a temperature probe. Very simple installation. There's your SLD. So you've got grid coming in top left. You've got your PV there on the top right, up to 230 volts. And then your traditional thermostat and geyser is, what do you call it, element is as was with the normal isolator, and your temperature probe. So basics, as you would expect, if you've got grid PV and a load, it's obviously always going to prioritize the PV. You can set up all kinds of rules about how it may or may not use the grid at times, all the usual stuff that you would expect. Or you can just say you're not allowed to use the grid at all. That's also fine. And you can also disconnect the grid. We have customers who just disconnect the grid, and that's also fine. What I really wanted to just spend a little bit more time on is the special functionality. So what's happened is it's all about sort of fleets of equipment and making sure that you can manage these things synchronously. So we get a lot of inquiries for complexes, and even at municipal level and now even at national level, how do we do load reduction on a fleet basis? And so we've built a platform that sits behind the product, and it manages on a fleet basis loads according to the rules that you set up. So in this particular case, you've got a bunch of houses, you've got a bunch of geysers there. Of course, you're normally trying to use PV to heat your water, but let's say in the case where there is no sun, or you know, in the evening you might use some AC, we can manage that load remotely. We've built a special, what we call the Apex Cloud services that enable all of that. And there's firmware on the device, obviously designed to match that. We can do this with the SGS, as I showed it to you, and also another device if you don't want to have PV. We have a sort of an AC only one, if you like, just to do fleet-wide management. What we can do is, imagine if you've got 150 geysers and you want to ration power to them, or let's say you've got a constrained connection, or you're running on a battery in a big complex. We can set rules according to the threshold. So if you've got a threshold of 50 kilowatts that's available, who gets that first 50 kilowatts. You can do it on a round robin. You can do it on temperature as well, because we know the geyser temperature, so lowest geyser first, all those kind of things. We build the rules according to what you need. So we have a little rule engine that we can set up. So yeah, that's the sort of special features. This is kind of a typical use case. There's many use cases for the technology, but this might be something like what you could want to use it for, if you've got a constrained connection or something like that. We have a user platform for it. The platform allows you to obviously view the device and manage the device and see what it's doing live. But of course, behind that, there's a whole lot of management tools. We can remotely connect into every single device. Each device has a local user page. And on the local user page, you can see everything about that device. So this is what the software looks like, or the platform looks like. And then the local page, sorry, wrong one. This is the local page of our microgrid controller. Here we go. So this is the, sorry, try again. Do that. You can get into your device from anywhere in the world over our back end. Let's just see. So this happens to be my house, and this is a web page served off the device itself. So if you don't want to use the cloud, don't have the cloud, there's no connection, whatever, you're able to manage it and set it up and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Thanks. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. That was great information. Okay.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
If you can stick around till the end of the meeting and just be available for the Q&A, that would be wonderful.
Will do.
So the next founding member that we wanted to share some of their ideas and their products with us is ARB Electrical Wholesaler. So Aaron, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me just share this. Cool. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Cool. So just wanted to give a brief overview and introduction of ARB and what we do. Also how we assist on projects, both with EPC and general installers as well, with a bit of an overview of the products that we offer. So just as an introduction to ARB, ARB Electrical is the company well known within South Africa. However, we have a wide variety of other companies within our group as well. ARB Global, so we do quite a lot of cross-border transactions, both incoming and outgoing. So our export company is ARB Global. It's a USD-based company, and we trade in all African countries. We have a company called Craycore Distributors. They are the Allen Bradley and Rockwell Automation distributors. A company called CED, or Consolidated Electrical Distributors. Cable Management Group, which is a strut and mechanical business. GMC Power Lines, which is an overhead line and reticulation business. Exact ERP, which is a software business. Cable Feeder Systems, which is a telecoms and data business. And then Eurolux and Radiant, which are both lighting businesses. So those are just some of the businesses within our group. So what do we do as electrical wholesalers, or ARB Electrical Wholesalers and ARB Global? We obviously focus on a wide variety of factors, but within the electrical space. So we do the solar and renewable energy, lighting, power and instrumentation, cables, overhead line and reticulation, and general low voltage products. So that's sort of what we do in a nutshell. In the PV space, this is some of the brands that we do. SunGrow, Solar Edge, JA, Canadian Solar, Trina, ATES, Freedom One, Mega Evo, SunSync, Daya. So we distribute whole stock of all these products as well. So what do we offer? So we offer simplified logistics. We have over 200 vehicles in our fleet. We have 24 locations throughout the country. We're represented in every single province. So we try and have the right product at the right time, at the right place for our customers. We have a very reliable supply chain. Within our 24 branches, we hold stock in every single branch. And also what we try and do on large scale projects is we will bring the stock into the country if required, or get the stock ready at the right location. And we can do that up to a month before the project is actually required on site. So with pre-planning, we can make sure that you have the right product at the right time, and there's no delays on that. The other thing that we do is we do an as and when do stock on an as and when required basis. Obviously, if you've got a 5 megawatt site, you don't ideally want 5 megawatts of modules to arrive at the same time. You can install 500 kilowatts a week. We'll deliver 500 kilowatts a week up until that project is complete. So that allows you not to have additional security on site, require additional storage. You only take what you need up until the project is complete. And we'll manage the logistics of that. From a quality assurance point of view, we only do a tier 1 product. We establish the relationship with the partners. We manage the logistics. We ensure that the product is the standard that it's required. We also manage all the warranties and returns for the imported and local product. So we do that on behalf of the customer. Some customers do prefer to deal with the OEM. However, we will actually do that on their behalf. So we'll do the warranty on their behalf with the customer. They've got a single point of contact, which is dealing with us and not necessarily dealing with the likes of ATES or any one of the other OEMs. We try and save costs as much as possible for the contractors and the EPCs. So based on our economies of scale when it comes to shipping, we generally get a much better shipping rate than most. And also the EPCs and contractors don't need to hold stock of product themselves. We hold the stock. That's what we do well. You just take it as and when you require. If the market is slightly slow, you're not sitting with redundant stock in your warehouse. You'd rather leave it within us. So that'll be for, staffing, handling materials, warehousing, insurance, theft, all those sort of things. We hold that risk. From a technical support and after sales service, we have electrical engineers that work for AREP, which is quite unique within the distribution space, that help with first level support, that help with initial designs, programming, and then do all the after sales support after that as well. So a lot of the times we will do, without even getting the OEMs involved, we will be able to manage the troubleshooting initially. If, however, we can't manage it and we do require the OEM to get involved, we will still remain involved in that process to make sure that the process is sped up and it's dealt with in a timeliest matter. From a financial benefit point of view, obviously AREP offers credit terms. We also work within projects, so we can do back-to-back project payment terms. If you're getting a 10% deposit, 50% material on site, balance once commissioned, we can do those sort of project terms as long as we understand the project terms and the risks from the get-go. And really try and help from a financial point of view to make sure that the cash flow for the EPC is not affected and that their project goes off without a glitch. And that is just a little bit about AREP. Obviously, we've got an online website as well. The pricing is really on the online website is related to end user. So don't take us on that price, rather speak to one of the branches directly and get pricing from us directly. And that is my story. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. That was great. All right, before I introduce the next company, which is Iseli Energy, I just wanted to remind you that we're going to have a Q&A at the end of at the end of Iseli's talk, essentially. So if you want to, you can start posting questions in the chat. And listen, we have a lot of experts in the room. We all have different experience in the industry. So it's really a platform for everyone to participate. If you have a comment on someone's question, you're welcome to raise your hand. We'll give you a chance to comment. Let's make it a collaborative thing. You can really ask anything. We have so many experts here. You can ask anything from regulations to technical advice to business management advice. Let's see, if you have a question and you really need some help, this is the opportunity for you to ask it and to get some advice. All right, so please go ahead and post questions in the chat so long. And then I'm going to introduce Mark, who is from Iseli Energy.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us to talk to you this morning. My name is Mark van Schalkwyk. I'm the head of technical for Iseli Energy in Africa. And I was told to keep it under 3 minutes, so let's see. I just wanted to chat to you guys quickly about who Iseli is and where we were and what our plans for the future are in this ever-changing renewable energy landscape. So Iseli is primarily a distribution company within the renewable energy space.
Mark, sorry for interrupting. We're seeing your inbox at the moment. We're not seeing a slideshow, if that's what you wanted to share.
No, it's not my inbox. I think it's ARB's inbox.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna see what I can do here. It's not yours.
Yeah, not mine either.
There we go. I think I've stopped it. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for interrupting.
No problem. So we are primarily a distribution company in the renewable energy space with offices all over Southern Africa. Some of the brands we decided to align with include Jinko, JA, Canadian, and then of course our own Enersol brand. That's on panels. And as recently as mid-2023, we partnered with SIG Energy, which has become our flagship technology of choice. SIG Energy boasts the world's first 5-in-1 stackable ESS solution with an integrated DC EV charger, and it's scalable from the smallest residential installation to the largest utility scale projects. So just something about SIG Energy. It's fitted with an AI module powered by ChatGPT, which can predict weather patterns, tariff changes, even look at the load shedding schedules for your specific area to plan and adjust effective storage retention, charge discharge rates, and also facilitate peak shaving and energy arbitrage in commercial spaces. Right. So the Sergeant Store stackable batteries, just some of the features. They've got built-in fire suppression inside of each battery and the ability to mix inverter and battery sizes. So for example, on a 3-phase installation, you could do 15, a 25 and a 30 kilowatt 3-phase and mix up the inverter sizes to get to exactly what size you need. You could also essentially have one battery per stack and another stack that has 6 batteries total. So it's almost like Lego blocks. You just build it the way you need it. The Sergeant Store, sorry. So the Sergeant Store battery also has the ability to disconnect a faulty or potentially faulty battery from the stack without affecting the output of the other batteries in the stack. So in a conventional system, you would lose the entire stack because they've either been connected via comms cables or in a series configuration. With the AI module built into each battery, it can actually disconnect from its peers and allow current to pass through. That's just to mention a few of the things. If I had to go through all of the features, we'd be here all day. So Iseli as a company made a conscious decision to move away from your standard distribution approach and rather move into a more bespoke end-to-end experience with our EPC partners and their end users and businesses respectively. So we now also brag with an in-house design team consisting of engineers and electricians, which can assist from a pre-assessment, pre-sales perspective to design SLDs, presenting the value offering from a sales perspective to the end user's business, and then also installation and commissioning support as well, obviously including after-sales service for any size of project, even up to utility scale. So that's us in a nutshell. Thank you so much for the opportunity again.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Mark. All right, so I'm going to kick off our Q&A session by asking a question to Jock, who is the president of the board of AREP. And Jock, I'm going to ask you a very simple question, really. Um, so the general consensus is that the PV market is really slow and most everyone is struggling. So I wanted to hear from you, in your experience, is that true across the board, or are there still pockets of investment occurring in places?
Hi, Marisha. Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the question. Yes, I think my impression is that the market has changed a lot this year. I think what we've seen in our business, at least, is obviously with load shedding dropping off, there's been a lot less requests for backup power and batteries to be funded. But what we have seen is a lot more larger projects coming through, and they of course take a lot longer to get to final investment decisions, but sort of the volume of them has ramped up a lot, particularly in the last few months since the election. So that's sort of projects 500 kilowatts through to 5 megawatts. We've seen multiple of these coming through in recent months, but there's projects below that size, sort of on the solar side, have dropped off completely, and of course the number of batteries being purchased has also dropped off. So yeah, I think the market's changed in my opinion.
All right, and perhaps for you and for the different distributors in the room, in your experience, has the import or the sales of products decreased, or what has happened in terms of the number of products sold?
So I can only speak from the view that we have, where we're investing and funding projects, and the first 5 months of this year was very slow. We didn't see a lot getting closed at all. But sort of since then, the total amounts that we've sort of put out the door and funded is very similar to 2023, but the type of projects is very different. So sort of since May 2024 until now, it's been very similar to the same period for 2023, but investing in very different projects to 2023.
Okay, so essentially we're saying the market isn't necessarily dead, as many of us would pessimistically be prone to feel, but it is changing significantly, and it's trying to stay on top of the change that's going to help us survive.
Yeah, I think what's driving people to invest is the cost of power. The cost of, there's been huge increases the last 2 or 3 years, and people are trying to counter that by doing some of their own generation. That's probably the best way, and it's more of the bigger corporates, and of course with those larger companies, everything takes a lot longer to get to decisions. So it's a lot slower. Because last year, people would come forward they would want to do something. If it's an owner-run business, they can take a decision very quickly. Within a few weeks, you get a decision and things move forward, signatures and so forth. But the bigger projects with bigger companies, it takes a lot longer, I think. Yeah.
Aaron, I saw you turned on your mic. Did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I can just essentially, the market has changed. The residential market is really slow. However, the C&I and utility space seem to be picking up really, really quickly. Storage is definitely not where it was, although if it is sold correctly and people start to understand what energy arbitrage is, it then still closes the deal on storage. So we're seeing quite an uptick on the grid tide, which is quite unique because obviously during load shedding, grid tide was really, really slow. So grid tide definitely picking up, and then storage, as long as it's explained and the end users really understand what they're paying for, we're seeing a nice uptick on that as well. So again, more of a change than a slowing down in the market.
Okay, That's interesting. I'm going to direct this version of the question to Trevor, who is the vice president of the board of AREP. Hi, Trevor. I see that you're in the room. In the same line of questioning, I wanted to ask you about, there's been talk that the maintenance part of the industry has been picking up, that installers tend to receive calls for maintenance more than installations. Has this been your experience? And what can practitioners do to prepare for being able to deliver a service like this?
Thanks, Marietta. Yes, yeah, lots of people are looking more at the maintenance side of things at the moment. So we do get a lot of queries on maintenance. There's a lot of people also out there doing maintenance that is not qualified. So they just get on the roof with buckets of water and wash. So yes, there's just like with the installs, there are everybody that did anything is also now washing or cleaning panels. And but that's not where maintenance should end. So on maintenance, once you just do the cleaning, you must also continuously look for loose connections and stuff like that when you do it. And also, it is important to look at try not to clean panels, obviously in the midday when the sun is high, and obviously also do your switching correctly when you do these panels. Although that as the maintenance has picked up quite a lot in the last 2-3 weeks, I must say that there's been a lot of queries on new installations and also people that want to add to their systems. They want to add batteries or panels and all of that.
Okay. I see France has left a question in the chat box. Let's see. What we have seen is that on the residential side, there is still a lot of interest and request for quotes, like you just actually said, Trevor, has been happening over the past few weeks. But the overall expectation regarding the cost of solar is out of line with the real cost. Do you have any comments on that?
Yes, it's still an expensive exercise to do solar. So people, yeah, we get clients that doesn't have that capital to do it. A lot of people are looking for funding, but not all funding on residential. Not everybody funds residential people, so that's a bit of an issue. And where you do have funding on the residential parts, it becomes quite expensive.
Should practitioners ever be tempted to lower their price to win the bid? What is your opinion on that?
I'm not sure if you're familiar with that drawing or painting where the guy started to paint the zebra and then cost to a cut, and then it was like a grade 1 drawing going further on. So yes, if you start cutting cost, I mean, if you make your price and you make it fairly from the start, decide what your markup is, see if you can find the best supplier to buy the best product at the best price, but not cutting on I would say, don't cut on your prices, because when you cut on your prices, you are skimming somewhere, and that could cost you at the end.
That makes sense. I see Tace left a comment. So you said on the debate regarding who can and is allowed to install solar, how can I confirm my installer is able and qualified to do the work? Tace, can I ask you, are you an end user or are you a solar practitioner? From what angle are you asking? I think that will help us to better give you an answer. He's an electrician. Okay. So Trevor, do you want to take that one, or Jock maybe?
Yes, yeah, please. So Thijs, yeah, that's also a very good question. And with regards to our OSH Act, if you look at the OSH Act, the best thing to do is if you're an end user and you want to get an installer, The one document that you could ask for them to provide is the Department of Labor registration document that will indicate who is the registered person for that company. Make sure the company that quote you is also the company whose Department of Labor document that is. And if they have the correct registered persons on their document, then that is the correct company that you can work with. Anything like a green card or anything that's optional extra, that is not by law, but it is advisable. I mean, if somebody's got that extra information or experience, then that's good.
And of course, if they have a P4 registration, all the better.
Thank you, Jock. I just wanted to say, yeah, so the P4 is the quality assurance program that AREP provides.
Yes.
You know, if you want any information on that, I'm going to just post a link on that. Okay, I see Peter asked a question. What is the regulations for installing PV on asbestos and thatched roofs?
So the regulations on that, definitely not on either of them. It is at least 5 meters away, as it is horizontal, 5 meters away from any of those, and you cannot touch asbestos. You have to get special companies in to remove the asbestos and change the rooftop if you want to put PV on rooftops.
Yeah, there was a very clear memorandum from the Department of Labor on that they won't accept sealing asbestos and then putting panels on top of it. I think it was about 2 years ago now. So Trevor's 100% right. You have to be very careful there.
Great, at least that's a very definitive answer. Sometimes these regulatory things are difficult to put into practice. Okay, Anthony asked, could you give us a general guide on costing for market value on material and labor? I wonder, is that possible, Trevor?
It's a tough one. I know there's some training given on costing, tendering and costing that one can do, but it's not cast in stone. It's not just like tit for tat. Each company has a different overheads, so you have to calculate what your overheads is compared to what your labor is going to be. Material could be easy. You can determine whether you want to what your markup would be on the material, but that would also differ from company to company.
Okay, so it comes down to calculating your own costs, making sure that your business is viable, and then putting out a quote.
Yeah,
Back to this drawing.
Yeah, that's the best way, because, you know, if you work on somebody else's labor cost, you might either kill yourself or kill the end client. So work out what your cost is, determine what you are willing to put a markup on, and then you work it out from there. But there are some good training on tendering and costing that one can do.
Perfect. Thanks, Nick, also for the reminder to not discuss specific pricing. We definitely don't want to be anti-competitive in that sense. So I think Trevor's answer was a good one. Then Donnie said the 44%. Sorry, Trevor, was that you?
No, you're sorry. No, carry on.
So Donnie said the 44% long-term pricing application of Eskom will have a significant implication on the payback period. Donnie, do you have a question there, or was that just a comment that you would like us to discuss?
That was, it is for this discussion, but in the pricing of future expansion and new installations, especially for municipal connections and Eskom direct connections. This will have a significant impact.
That makes sense, yeah. Trevor, do you have something to add there? Or shall we move on?
No, that's a good statement. It's it can be maybe a good discussion for one of the next webinars. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Michael said asbestos can be cladded with corrugate roof sheets. Cladding fall under building regulations and are allowed. Is it then install on top? Can you then install PV on top of that?
No, there was definitely a writing from the Department of Labor. If you touch an asbestos roof, that could be liable with some imprisonment and fines. So you don't touch that roof. There's only certain companies that are certified by the Department of Labor that are allowed to remove asbestos. One quotation or one site was done about a year ago, 12 months. It cost the person for a double garage asbestos roof to be removed in the vicinity of about 120,000 to remove it. So definitely not. If you want to be imprisoned or something, then you touch an asbestos roof.
I've uploaded the letter, so it's clear. I think it actually deals with the overshooting in that letter as well, also saying that's against the intention of the regulation.
Thank you, Jock.
Perfect. Let's go to Leonard's question. Regarding the regulations, what does it say about the supply or return of cabling between your DB and inverter? Can you use, for example, a 4x10 Norsk with the metal screen, or does it need to be, let's say, a 2x10 flat, one for supply and one for load?
A very hot topic currently. I believe that there was something going to be written into the new SANS 10142 that was released 2-3 weeks ago. I haven't had time to go through the new document, but as if the old document, they usually use 613 and 614 as an argument that you are not allowed to use it. If you talk to the AIAs of the BravoScan guys, they say if they get you on site, they will make you change it. So maybe I must stop there because I don't want to discuss my view.
Okay. Is that a document that you can share or not really?
No, it needs to be bought. It SANS 10142-1 edition 3.02. That's been released about 2-3 weeks ago.
Okay. Will you just put that reference in the chat so if everyone wants to go get that document, then they can?
I will do.
Thank you. All right. So the next question is, where do we get that tendering and costing training that you mentioned, Trevor?
Okay, there is one that the ECA does, and also, yeah, so you can speak to the ECA. We also do have at Taki Investments, we also do one. And then I also saw that Thijs asked, how can you find out who is registered and so as a installer? Well, you could also contact the Department of Labor directly, but you wait quite a long time. The alternative is you can contact the offices at the ECA in Germiston, and you can email them, and they would also be able to look up if the contractor is registered with the Department of Labor.
Yeah, so that's for the Department of Labor registration, which is cardinal. It has to be in place. And then if you want to know whether someone has a accreditation for solar, for instance, a P4 accreditation or something like that, you're welcome to contact Anne or myself for us to check their accreditation on the database. So we'd be happy to help with that as well. All right, and then I see there was a question for Alexis, but he had to leave the chat, so I'm going to put you into contact with him. Okay, let's do that. What is next? Shannon is saying, is it mandatory that the person issuing the COC has to be involved in or oversee the project from the start to finish, or just commissioning?
Is it, sorry, I'm just reading it again. Is it mandatory that the person issuing the COC has to be involved, oversee the project from start? Yes, according to the EIR, there will be sufficient guidance and supervision on the site. So to guide or supervise somebody, you need to be on site at least some from the start, during the course, and at the end. Obviously do all the tests, and when the tests are satisfactory, then you can issue the COC.
Okay, perfect. Then we have a question to Nick, I think, specifically. What is the pricing of the Apex, and is there a project training on the installation of the equipment and so forth?
Sure. So you can get in touch with me directly afterwards, and I'll give you all the details. I did put my contact details in the chat. Roughly, the hardware is about $8,000, and then the rest of the kit that you need with the mounting structure and panels and all that should take it to about 16 or something in that ballpark. But we can discuss your projects, and go through it in detail. In terms of training, we have training sessions quite regularly. You're also welcome to contact me, and I can run through it. It's actually really simple. I can run through it with you one-on-one. Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that for you.
Great, thank you, Nick. The next question. That's just Trevor's mic echoing. Okay, so the next question is, OHS Act has specific asbestos regulations. Oh, it's just a comment from, it's just another comment. Okay, then the next question, can those with that letter from the DOL regarding the theft and the asbestos, can we get a copy of the letter? I think we did post that. Jock did post the letter in the chat, so that should be available. We have about 5 minutes left on the call. Let's see how many of these questions we can answer. If you still have questions, please go ahead and pop that in. If you post a question and we don't get to discuss it, I will make sure that someone gets back to you with an answer. But let's see how many we can still do. The next question, is it by regulation to install a fire suppression system for lithium batteries or a smoke detection system? Or will a smoke detection system suffice? Is that your question?
And I would wonder if it would be possible. Oh, I see. He's also left the meeting.
Oh,
The right person for that answer would have been Willem Bekes, but I see he's not on the call anymore. But yes.
That question, I'm available. Sorry about that. My name is Henry. I just asked that question there. Yeah, you can answer. I'm available.
I think Trevor meant that the ideal person to answer the question is actually someone called Willem Bekes, and he just left the call. So let me put you, I should have your email because you've registered for this meeting, and I'm going to put you in contact with Willem to get an answer on that. All right, let's see, next question. this also just looks like a comment, but the OHS and the EIR stipulate that electrical work must be done under general control. Not sure how it applies to solar. Trevor, do you want to comment on that? I'm not sure if you are trying to talk to us, but we're not hearing anything. It looks like you're having a bit of an internet or a connection problem. Is there anyone else?
I think this is the same question that Trevor already answered when he said that the person has to be there during the installation.
All right. So that's
I am aware that there are cases where people have been taken to court where COCs have been signed where they didn't have general control because it was proven that they weren't on site.
That word general control, I think, is one of the things that in practice people have trouble really interpreting. But I agree with Trevor's answer in the way that he interprets it.
Seems like I'm back now.
Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you. I've lost the signal there for a couple of minutes. What was the question?
It was just a comment on what you've already answered in terms of the interpretation of general control of a site. So Jock also made a comment on that. So I think we've covered that. Let's see if we have something else here that we can discuss. We have 1 minute left. Greg has asked, could I ask Nick to comment on DNP3 requirement for PV and BE and BASE?
Sure. Quickly, what it is, the City of Cape Town led an effort to demand, I suppose, remote control of PV plants over 100 kilowatts from their central control room. If they needed to, in theory, there's too much PV on the grid and low demand, they can throttle the embedded generation. And that's been in place for years. They've now just released an update to that, which requires also batteries to be controlled as well, over 100 kilowatts of AC power. And so DNP3 is the protocol that's used to do that control over a VPN. And so it's just kind of known as DNP3 control. We have a solution to that. We've sold many systems. The problem until recently was that the city didn't have a defined requirement for the batteries. As of last week, that is now in place, and we have a solution to it. What's important to just take away from what I'm saying is that Eskom have started to say the same thing as well. We've received a couple of inquiries recently where they're refusing to sign off new sites without them being able to control. It was always a requirement at utility scale, but now they're also migrating that requirement into small scale embedded, not residential, but probably also 100 kilowatts or something. We met Eskom a few times recently. Their requirements are also a little bit complicated. And we're working on a solution to that. So if you have, if this DNP3 or remote control thing comes up, you can give me a shout and we'll give you what you need to know.
Perfect. All right. So we have reached 12 o'clock. In an effort to respect everyone's time, I'm going to end off the meeting here. We still have a lot of questions in the chat and a sort of a conversation going about the fire suppression question. But I'm going to make sure that we get back to you, everyone that's questions have not been answered. If you want to contact me or Anne, I'm just going to quickly post my email address in the chat. Please go ahead and do that. And then that's it for today. Thank you everyone so much for joining, for participating. Trevor and Jock and everyone that shared their expertise. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Nick and Alexis, Aaron and Mark for sharing the information that you did. And then have a wonderful Thursday.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.